Hello, I'm going to talk about our scripture for today, which is John chapter 10, verses 1 to 10. Jesus is the gate. Isn't it strange for someone to describe themselves as a gate? Here is a passage for us to consider today. Jesus is talking to the Pharisees, people from the religious end of the Jewish faith, who are very worried about this rabbi who makes very different claims about God, who seems to be disregarding all the rituals and procedures and processes around the observance of the Jewish faith, and his gathering of following. The Pharisees are investigating, questioning, watching and analyse Jesus and his disciples, trying to work out the risk level, protecting, caring and fighting for the integrity of the faith that's their job to protect. Jesus is using another parable, an example of everyday life, as an illustration that everyone alive at that time in that part of the world would understand. I love the Lake District and spent a block of my life living there. Of course, you who know me know that I was living in 3 different houses over the 15 years or so. It was where we brought up the children and walked our dog, Zach, and supported the mountain rescue. I took up different roles in our village life. I joined the Women's Institute and lived in 3 different farming villages, hence my love for the Herdwick breed of sheep. On TV recently, there was a programme called The Great Mountain Sheep Gathering, based in the lakes, a real example of beautiful, slow television. Leaving their homes before dawn, 5 shepherds or so headed up onto the mountains with a dozen or so sheepdogs to gather in the Herdwicks, who had been scattered across mountains and hillsides, valleys, fields and quarries for months. The views were stunning, sometimes shrouded in mist and fog, sometimes shafts of sunlight breaking through. In the west, most shepherds drive their sheep, but in the east, shepherds lead them. And that's why this reading, it says, when he has brought them all on his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. So they all arrive at the farm, put into holding pens and fields ready for the shearing and the careful checking. The gates keep them safely in, while that work of care and stewardship goes on. Instead of being in 3s and 4s, ewe and lamb on the fell, on the mountainside, they're all herded together, with richer grass to eat. What can we understand of this pastoral picture? Jesus says he is the gate, the way in for the sheep. We are the sheep. We are being brought to a place where we can pass through into the place of safety and care. Jesus highlights the thieves and robbers who come and steal the sheep out of the fields, who have their own needs and wants, not the interests of the sheep at heart. In every age, we can look around us and identify the powers that draw us away from nurture and care, draw us away from the religious, moral and community influences that steady us all into a life that is productive and life-giving, even with its ups and downs. In these times, under the restrictions of COVID-19, most people's actions are focused on protecting the NHS and helping each other, caring. Many Christians are looking out to discern the bones of our faith. What is religion? What is faith? As we move forward, as lockdown we expect is gradually lifted, which activities will be held onto as the foundation for our faith? And which of the old religious ways can we let go into the past, as some of the Pharisees did when they saw that Jesus was the Messiah? There's some wisdom in these passages, in the Gospels of Christ, in the stories that we read as we come down off the mountains where we've been living in 3s and 4s, 1s and 2s, as we come down into the holding pens, through the doors of these buildings we call church. It's their time to interpret Jesus' stories for our times. As we read our Gospel, join with the discernment and discussion about the near future, the next year, the life of Christ's church. Let's take an example that Jesus gives us and apply it to the times that we live in with care and guidance. A flock is not counted on the mountainside, but in the sheep pen. The shepherd doesn't want any of the sheep to be left on the side of the hill. He wants to gather us safely into his love, not necessarily a building.